Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alok. Thank you for
good morning.
having accepted our invitation.
It's a wonderful place. Such a quietude. I love the journey.
Thank you. So let's go straight in our conversation.
Yes.
Could you tell us what is your personal experience of your relationship with your psychic being and how it unfolds in your daily routine?
So first a little very short preamble, because very often we don't share the experiences, and yet I'm inclined to share it because I feel the purpose is very different, and in time to come I do believe that these documents are important, just like the Vedas are a compilation of the experiences of the rishis. Now, we are not rishis, we are not into Vedas, but this is another kind of Veda which is unfolding. A new knowledge, a new step, and so it's good to document these experiences because eventually they become kind of evidence for humanity that yes, such things happen.
And to help also
Yes,
people
yes,
everywhere.
yes. To know that yes, things like that happen. So experiences are numerous. I'll come straight to the point. And the journey has its own wonderful course, sometimes winding, sometimes straight, sometimes like a leap, sometimes stumbling in, and I have had all of them. From the most minute experiences where I casually strayed into Sri Aurobindo Bhavan, Kolkata, which is Sri Aurobindo's birthplace, without knowing anything about Sri Aurobindo, without hearing his name, and I entered casually because there was an art exhibition.
So it was absolutely not your
Nothing.
purpose.
I didn't know about Sri Aurobindo. I didn't even read the word.
How old were
name.
you, Alok?
I was 21 and a half, just out of the medical school.
Okay.
And as I entered, I went across the courtyard. They said the exhibition is over. But since I had entered, I was curious. I was going for a movie which I opted out. And I was wandering aimlessly on the street of Kolkata. And I enter there, I see the place where the relics are there, but I had no idea. So the relics part where the samadhi is, it didn't impress me.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't notice, I don't remember. And I went straight to the place where Sri Aurobindo's bust was there. And it was late evening, and suddenly when I saw the bust, the thought came to me, almost I can say here, which is strange, I noted it, the most perfect human form ever upon earth. Not that I am an expert in, sculpture, but this is how it came. And I sat, I spontaneously fell into a state of meditation. 20 minutes down, the only thing I can describe of that state is a bliss which I can't explain. I mean, it's not happiness, it's not ecstasy, it's not joy, but a very, very deep, there is no term, the only term now I can put onto it is bliss. And I came out absolutely lost. I had no idea or found, if I may put it, but I didn't know that I had entered this place. What place is this? I didn't care to see. And I walked back almost transbound to my hospital, which was quite a bit of distance. And then...
so was it your first experience of the kind?
No, my first experience was in medical school. In fact, number of them, but okay, first with Mother and Sri Aurobindo as I understand today. But there were quite a few of them, even as a child. But this, in medical school, suddenly one night I experienced that my whole spine is doing zigzag, like a very rapid motion, and after a few minutes or seconds, I don't know, I mean that state, I just came out of my head. This was my feeling.
Okay.
I didn't see myself coming out of the head, but the impression was that something is climbing from below, zigzag, very like a whirling motion, and then next I see that I am in a different space where there is a road and there is an old man trying to come towards me. He is not scary, but I don't like him coming near me.
Okay.
And when I look at the right, suddenly I see, that time I didn't know anything about Divine Mother, but I had a connection with both Mother Saraswati and Krishna, having grown up like that. So I thought this Mother Saraswati, but now I know she was the Divine Mother, I mean, as her same picture, sitting on a white lotus in a lotus posture, I mean, in a normal posture, with no veena, nothing. I just saw that. And when I would see her, suddenly I'll feel a lot of joy, and this old man would not come near. He would just stop where he is. And then I would experience deep gasping and entering. Then I know that I'm entering my body, and the deep gasping like that, as if my breath had stopped. How long it would be, I don't know. And I would be back. I'll wake up with, didn't have any fear, but what is it kind of thing. I was kind of agnostic by then, despite all the background. And so it went on next day, 15 days, 15 nights.
Okay.
And then I was being in the medicine, am I having temporal lobe epilepsy? This was one of my thoughts. What is it?
Because you were a medical
doctor.
At that time, so it brought more confusion.
So I discussed with some of my friends, and they said, better don't speak about it, because I would be getting into the Air Force, and if I mention that I have these kind of weird things, yeah. So I just kept quiet. But strangely, the day I discussed with my friends, it vanished after that. So it never returned. So 15 days, or rather 15 nights, exactly the same thing was repeating. I don't know how long it used to be there, and when I would come back, I was very surprised that what's this, amazed, I mean, wondered, a bit apprehensive, but really speaking, no fear or apprehension somehow, because I saw the goddess whom I related as Mother Saraswati, but it was the Divine Mother. That I didn't know. I had never seen her face.
And at that time, you had already a religious background, no?
I had a background of very deep intimacy with Krishna and Mother Saraswati as a child. I used to sleep with Krishna, taking him as my friend.
Okay.
And I used to literally do Mother Saraswati's puja, and very deep connection. But it was a religious. With Krishna, it was not even religious. It was very like a friend. Always I have felt like that, and till date I feel. He's a very dear friend. So,
like a child, you can have some imaginary friend sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I often say, as a psychiatrist, that people have transient, those blankets, attachment. I had attachment to Krishna, but since you mentioned about it, there was a small little baby Krishna's idol of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sleep hugging the Krishna. I mean, I didn't want mama, papa, anybody, even as a child. So one day parents got very disturbed that why as a child he is, people told them that this is not good, because wherever I went I have to take Krishna, and and parents were very loving. I had, beautiful childhood, I must say, that there was no trauma, no nothing. I was a very happy child throughout. So they, at their advice, at one point my parents took away the idol when I was asleep and put it into the water. I cried and cried and cried. I don't know how long, maybe for hours. And then they got me, they were so, worried. They got me a rubber doll, same to same, but I could never connect. So there was this physical object, but this physical object had a meaning. So now that was a lesson which, as a grown up, I can understand that this physical world and the objects we play with have a deeper meaning. And we often, brush it aside, or we give all kinds of labels, but they connect in a very deeper way. So that background was there. Then I became an agnostic, questioning, when the questioning mind started, 17, medical school, and sort of by the time I had this experience in medical school, I was kind of agnostic. I'm not atheist, but I don't know, looking at world suffering, this moved me too much.
So from that period onwards, everything started to develop, and
that took a little later. So I was an agnostic, had this experience, then I went on, during internship, this other thing where I walked into Sri Aurobindo's bust, again forgot about it. So Then I was posted to Jorhat, where nothing. I got married, and after 6 months, I came across Sri Aurobindo's book, The Synthesis of Yoga. Again, very strangely, again wandering. As I said, I was stumbling in, or made to stumble in Connaught Place, heat, and I mean December, but still. That's the last place where you would expect a kind of rendezvous with God. I just casually walked into a bookstore and I saw Sri Aurobindo's book, The Synthesis of Yoga, and something happened, this name itself, because I believed I had read everything of significance in Indian and Western metaphysics, because I had read by then. Even as a youngster, I used to read a lot.
Also for your studies and for...
Even otherwise, I had deep interest in understanding life. So I used to read a lot, but I didn't have the answers, because individual salvation sounded too selfish. And equally, I couldn't imagine life where I am just charging money and making a house. That was so stupid. Having a family, children, and living for that was meaningless. So I went through a real existential crisis.
Yeah.
And salvation as an individual sounded equally selfish. So I was caught between two equally, for me at least, futile goals. So agnosticism, and then after this, so I just walked in and I saw this book, The Synthesis of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo, and that word did something.
And reminded you also your experience?
Nothing, I just felt so happy about it. No, I didn't know that my experience with Sri Aurobindo, because I saw the bust. Later on I came to know, much later.
Okay.
I didn't know that I walked into Sri Aurobindo Bhavan where he was born.
Like a puzzle. And
like a puzzle. So all the pieces, exactly. So then, and while outer life was going in its own way. Like as I said, I got married, I fell in love, I got married, and Air Force, all that. And then I opened the book, first page it was written, all life is yoga. And somehow that phrase was like clicking with everything. It was the central piece of the puzzle of my life. Because my crisis was what this life is about. It can't be individual salvation. It can't be just family, children, becoming a big officer in Air Force and becoming a great doctor. I said it can't be just this.
Yeah.
Equally, it can't be this. So all life is yoga. I didn't understand a word of it, I must say, but it hit me very deep, and I was very happy. I just remember that, and I got the book. Same evening, my friend who ended up becoming a psychiatrist, he's in New York, so he gifted me The Secret of the Vedas, same evening. And I was on cloud 9, and my wife knows it, that when she was traveling with me, we were on a transition, that we went together to meet this friend, and afterwards in the house with my family members, I had no interest except the joy of these books. I didn't feel like having a conversation. I was busy opening the pages, and then so many, as I said, plenty of things that would be a big long account, but like I was literally made to go somewhere for 3 months in Leh Ladakh, high altitude, apparently as a kind of quasi punishment, which was not, because I had said something about the commanding officer that he is not doing something which is, in my notion, not a right thing. And so they promoted and posted him away. They sent me to, they didn't use the word punishment, they just said 3 months temporary duty. That turned out to be a blessing, because I carried synthesis. And every chapter
all the time you needed.
Alone in that wilderness.
That was
so it was literally wilderness is paradise. And every chapter I would read, I would get that experience for a short while, sometimes for hours. I would just get into that state. I can't describe it mentally. Like when I read oneness, what it was. But I knew what oneness was deep inside.
Okay, so could you, now with all the knowledge and all the shape of the pieces of the puzzle, could you retrospectively say that it was your first contact with this inner guidance, this psychic being? In
this life and a grace, so just to complete now that picture, since we are so far. So for me, Synthesis of Yoga was enough. I didn't know how many books Sri Aurobindo has written. I didn't know about Mother. I didn't know about Ashram, and I didn't care to know. For me, I was getting the experiences. For me, this book was world. And Secret of the Vedas was also there, which was very nice in a way. I enjoyed it from a psychological perspective, and with the background of Indian thought, which I had not understood with clarity till I read The Secret of the Vedas. So again, circumstances conspired in a way that I was in Bangalore, where looking for a place to stay. Again, I stumbled into Sri Aurobindo Bhavan without knowing anything. I know the book.
Just guidance.
I didn't enter reading Sri Aurobindo Bhavan. I entered again reading art something. And I entered there, though I am not an artist, but somehow I don't know why the art was coming, maybe the art of life. And both of us were there, and oh, this is such a beautiful place, lovely garden, let's explore, we are looking for a place. And very hesitantly I asked the man at the gate, do you have place to stay here also? He said, yes. So they had an accommodation, and it was Sri Aurobindo Bhavan. So when I went inside, I saw mother's picture. Till date I don't remember why I saw a different picture than the real picture which has been there, but somehow, I saw a different picture, I'm sure. And I got this message, command, whatever you may say, stop smoking. Again, this part of the head, and I was smoking, and I tried to leave it.
Do you mean it was written above you?
It's not written. I didn't read the letters. I didn't hear, but it's in, now I can, if I have to use words in a subtle space, it was said stop smoking with a power enough to, when I came out, I was a free person. For 2 years, I was trying to get rid of cigarettes. So this command had the power. It was so compelling.
Yeah.
I can't even say that I had to obey it. It did it. So, and then of course I came to know, because staying there I met some people. My wife also had a very amazing experience that time. She saw the mother everywhere and she started crying. So she was pulling.
So this kind of statement, inner statement,
yes,
that could also be the experience of our
yes,
people, our audience.
Yes, absolutely.
So where does come from?
Now I feel it comes in a subtle space where these things are actually, if you have a subtle vision, you can see it. Sri Aurobindo speaks of those Akashic records. Of course, that's in a very high subtle space. But ordinarily we can't see it. I can't see letters like that. But this was as concrete. And it was not imagination, because now I know the difference. I never imagined, I never expected anything.
It was not an hallucination either.
No, it was not a hallucination. There is a story about hallucination.
So it was a clear message for you.
And not only it was a message, it completed it. So I didn't even try to quit cigarette after that. I just didn't feel the urge.
So the message leads also to the action right away.
Or rather, it did it. If you ask me, I didn't do anything after that, though the command is as if to me that I have to stop smoking, but it was done. So I walked out a free man, and my wife is a witness to this whole story. And just a little before that, something very similar, walking in Patiala, I was posted there after the synthesis of yoga. I have not yet come to this place. And both of us were walking to watch a movie, and suddenly I was going on in a different state. She was speaking about the film we have to see. And I was thinking, if there is God which is there, and one must be able to see him in some way. And of course, this is a very common question. And suddenly I felt now I know, the deep descent of peace, solid peace. And everything seemed far, far away, miles away, all the trucks, a narrow road. And after that, we walked back to the Air Force mess, and the interesting part, scientifically speaking, of this experience is, my wife, who was expecting nothing, Kavita, she also had the same experience without knowing what's happening to her. So we sat in the movie, but we couldn't. We came out, lot of mosquitoes, but we were all quiet. Then I asked her, what has happened to you? She said, I don't know, but I feel everything has become distant. I feel very peaceful.
So you had the same experience?
I was the one who had it. I had the aspiration and had it. It got just transmitted.
Okay, like a contagious...
Yes, contagious something.
Because of your closeness.
Closeness. And then we decided we'll not do anything. We'll see what it what happens, we didn't have dinner because we didn't feel like doing anything. We just slept off till next day morning 10 o'clock. I actually, like a scientist, observed it. Morning I got up, I was still in that state. Then around 10 o'clock morning it started fading away. And then from Bangalore I came to this ashram because people told us. But the interesting part is we see how the divine works. I was happy with, frankly speaking, with Synthesis of Yoga. People told you go to ashram, see. So I said, okay. I was not much into, I had this thing that human gurus, ashram, maybe a bit of modern education, I don't know. I was not very keen about it. People often now tell me about bhakti. I say, I don't know, she has developed it. So I came to the ashram very hesitantly. Also I was like, why do you need to worship and all this? I don't know if that's how my state was. And perhaps in tune with that, as soon as we got down from the bus, I mean that time Sri Aurobindo was coming from strange sides. From radio we'll tune in, somewhere we'll go. So that's a long story.
Like we could say synchronicity.
Synchronicity, that's right, from everywhere. And then suddenly, and it's not just coincidence because Sri Aurobindo is not so common that, everywhere. And then I got down from the bus, we got down at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly an auto rickshaw comes and says, Auroville? And we said, yes, because we didn't know the difference between Auroville and ashram. And he asked, Matri Mandir? We thought, yes, it must be the Mandir. Then he dropped us somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So we stayed in Auroville, went away after 2 days. The beauty is I felt very happy. Here I picked up the book Mind of the Cells and I said, so nice. They don't even have a, yes, at that time I said, they don't even have a, a tomb consecrated to Sri Aurobindo. This is so nice because there is no worship. This struck me as something very great. And I look back later on when I came to ashram, the first time to ashram, this I'll just complete this because of the hallucination. On my birthday, not knowing the significance of birthday, it just happened. 3 days gap I had got. That time Kavita didn't come because she was elsewhere. And I came to ashram and then I realized at the samadhi what I missed. Everything got broken inside and all these ideas that worship and all this, it's suddenly heart opened. But the interesting part was from the point of view of experience, Dr. Maheshwari was there with me and he was sitting on the seashore and I told him I feel like going down and sitting by the side of the sea. Then the beach was a little bit still there. Now they made an artificial beach. So I went down, it must be around 7 and I sat there and I was experiencing that me and Kavita both of are there in mother's lap. This was neither, I was not seeing it, but it was a very concrete image entering my mind. Don't know from where, why mother came and why Kavita and myself, and I even remember the color of her sari. So this was, it came like an image.
Yeah.
This time. And then as I was walking up, there were a number of stones, if you remember. So I fell. I apparently lost my balance. I fell on the stone, but I actually felt that like a stroboscope, somebody is holding my body and placing it gently. And I was feeling again a joy inside, the kind of ecstasy, which is very strange. Now, of course, not a scratch. But Maheshwari ji was seeing me come up. He got alarmed and he just called out my name. Then I came out, I said everything is fine. And I came up and told him this experience. Chandradeep ji was passing by. He said, why don't you tell him? I told him. He said, sometimes the mother takes, through this event that happened, sometimes the mother takes up upon herself some big issue that was about to come. So why don't you ask your wife? Because he told me, where is she? I said, she is in Delhi. Why don't you ask her if something happened with her that time? So I asked her. She was wearing incidentally the same sari to start with. And so she said, because this thought of hallucination came to my mind very concretely. Was it hallucination? Was it pseudo hallucination? All this had come. She was wearing the same sari. Around that time or 2 hours before, she was feeling a great inner feeling, almost like a dread that she is going to die, and there was a severe headache going on. So while the whole family wanted to go out, she didn't communicate this apprehension to anyone. She told, you all go, I won't go. This was very unusual. And around that time, suddenly she felt as if a big load has been lifted and she is completely free. She had no clue about what's happening to me. I had no clue what's happening to her. But definitely this experience, inner experience, connected with something which happened outwardly, undeniably.
Yeah, this is very interesting because we can imagine that in the world today, people might experience such
Absolutely.
unexpected
Interventions.
and they might also, there is the possibility that they might consider this experience on the wrong way and maybe get fear. And so what advice could you give also to our audience to pause, to calm, just to rest, because people might not have all the capacities to handle it.
So now over a period of time with so many of all kinds of experiences, I can simply say that, well, now I know that even images, there can be all kinds of things. At that point of time, it was very simple.
We can eventually produce them.
Yes, we can produce them. At that point of time, it was very simple because you are just entering a ground which you are not accustomed to. So one has to see the effect that this particular experiences produces upon you.
Okay.
So even having a vision of what you may call as divine, or seeing Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, which is amazing, wonderful, but see how what kind of inner state it produces on you. If there is peace, if there is joy, if there is not a joy that makes you stumble, but a quiet joy, if there is a growth of faith, if there is a sudden urge for progress, growth of aspiration, urge to give oneself, surrender, then it is the right kind of experience. But if it produces restlessness, it has an undestabilizing effect, then definitely there is a need for caution. Of course, even a genuine experience can blow one's top of the head. This also I am aware of because now I have met so many people. But yet one should exercise caution, and probably it's a time that one should take a relook. Particularly I have seen if there are things like vanity can be very dangerous in spiritual life. Humility is very helpful. So all these experiences take place in a ground, they enrich us, they are like little lamps on the way, but they are not the way. Why I am saying this is that because a lot of people start taking it the other way. If they didn't have an experience like that, they feel, am I on the path? They expect some vision or something to happen.
It's human.
You want something out of the world.
Yeah.
So
to make it valid.
Yeah. So again, I would say they are lamps on the way and not the way. The way is always inner. This I can say now over decades of the journey. The way is a growth of bhakti, surrender, growth of inner knowledge, inner wisdom, inner peace, and being untroubled by circumstances, a state of equanimity, an urge to progress, to give oneself, aspiration for the divine, courage, replacement of fear with courage. These are the signs that one is on the path. Especially peace, wideness, light, these are the much more reliable indicators than these visions and whatever, these images. But they come, when they come, so beautiful. Now I can look back, but that time, yes, it was fantastic.
We could say also to some extent that if an experience comes to us, it means also that we have the capacity to handle it.
Yes, that's one way. I look at it a little that way, that they are, now if I look at it, they are gifts of grace. They are intrusions of the higher consciousness into our little, and they create an opening. It's like, you have a closed container. So what happens, you have to create an opening from different sides. So these experiences create openings, and to that extent they are very useful. But they are coming from the other side, and they are coming from the other side because we are somewhere ready. There is a preparation. And yes, the capacity part is with regard to vision and all, there is definitely a kind of capacity. Frankly, I don't have the capacity of visions, but still these things happen. But I know there are people who, and it's not always something very good, because like any capacity, it can lead you this way, that way. The one signpost should be how much I am giving myself to the Divine Mother. This how and more importantly, one should be careful that these experiences do not build up vanity in oneself. That's why I use the word gifts of grace. So it keeps you grounded, it keeps you humble. But yes, they are a very clear indicator that things exist. Many more things are there in heaven on earth than our science dreams of.
So vanity, or let's say qualities which are very human, can also be some threats and some traps on our.
It's very dangerous. Particularly vanity is very dangerous, because one gets an experience and one starts believing I am extraordinary. Then one next step is I am extraordinary, others are not up to me. Then once begins to I am doing sadhana, begins to be cut off, loses one's. I've seen people, I mean, completely go far away with this idea, I am a sadhak, I am a yogi. One begins to even dress up like one and to impress.
And still the experience could have been genuine.
Even genuine. So whereas if you, this is only starting point, and then many things will unfold. So humility, of course the mother speaks about it, and one can never say enough about humility, so much so that one should not even think that one is humble. But this humility, that there is so much more. I mean, I always feel it is infinite. So where is the scope of vanity? And to regard that, well, the divine is disclosing himself in his own unique way in everybody's life.
Yeah.
So this idea that I am special, or I am, especially in yoga, sometimes people have a tendency to believe that, we are in an elite people's club. Well, elite in a certain sense may be that, humanity at a point begins to evolve further. But this idea that something very special about me can really get into the head, and I have seen number of people, under that burden. So one has to be very careful. That's why it's called as a razor's edge. Razor's edge is not in that sense, I have do's and don'ts. That's how people look at it. It's not a moralist razor's edge. It's a razor's edge where on one side you're walking and everything is so beautiful, charming and delightful. But any time the ego and even the desire self takes hold of it, you can trip very badly. So that's how it is.
So could you give us a few words about your daily practice? Are you continuing to?
As I said, my first thing was all life is yoga. So if you put it externally, well, my first thing is in the morning is gratitude to the mother. And I wait for a spontaneous prayer to emerge. Normally it emerges. So every morning when I wake up, there is a kind of prayer which emerges, which I write a little. First is to mother. I write a little prayer, my own feelings, whatever. I mean, it is my first connect with the mother. Then I write another prayer, that's on the phone. That's a different purpose. Then the prayer comes, which I share with a few people as a morning message.
You mean a few relatives to you? Or
no, some people have requested me. That's how it started.
Okay.
They were sending me good morning and I didn't know what to write. So I started writing a prayer which came to me. So I started sharing this prayer. And this is how I've been doing. And then, of course, while getting ready, I try to remain concentrated on the mother's presence here, and as and when and as often as I can, think of her mama in the heart.
Why this particular location?
Yeah, because the divine resides there and the psychic being resides there.
Okay.
So I had a very concrete experience about it. So very, very clearly. Of course, it is there in all the spiritual literature.
Absolutely. We had in previous interviews the possibility that the location could be behind the heart, between the heart and the spine in a more subtle space.
Yeah, it's in a subtle space. Yeah. In fact, the spine and the heart vanish. Yes, but in a subtle space. So because I know earlier before I had started by concentrating in the forehead, because that's how you are brought up in the typical Indian setting.
Mm-hmm.
But this completely shifted later on.
Yeah.
And I had another series of experiences here, including finding the soul, certain revelation about past lives. That's how I know connection with the past. And not that these are important things, but they just came. So in the heart, now it comes very naturally, or sometimes above the head. And depending on the state, I go to after my initial rounds, The prayer is that in all my activities, I mean, roughly speaking, when I go for work, in all the activities, whether seeing patients, writing, speaking, walking, meeting people, all kinds of 101 things. Mom, may you manifest in whatever way you think is best. So your will should manifest and not my. Frankly, what can one wish for after knowing her and her grace? So even it doesn't occur, but sometimes say there are some events where some people seek or you want to pray for someone, that's when a prayer rises. But eventually it's basically let your will be done, make me more and more pure and perfect channel for your grace to pour upon everybody. That's my kind of approach, to serve her by being, to serve her and love her and just be whatever she wants me to be. So this takes many forms.
It's a kind of constant.
Yes, it's my way of being. Like this, what I am, whatever my in my deepest self. So then everything else is up to her, and that basic core of service and love for mother, and service not just in an ashram or Auroville or somewhere, but to
in the daily routine.
In the world and daily routine, no high, low, anything. So it takes different forms. For instance, if I am going for a talk, I would offer it. Like coming here, I would offer it. So it will take some special forms. Seeing patients, I would offer. And it has evolved over a period of time. At one point, I would write in a diary each patient's to mother. Now I don't write in a diary all these details, but that is that connect. So that's how the day goes, and it is like any other normal routine otherwise, I mean ashram routine. And then of course at night you think of her.
Yeah. And it's not anymore something that you think you should do. But
it will become your life. It's become your breath. You can't imagine life without it.
Like breath, absolutely.
That's okay. It. So.
I think unless you have something to add to be complete.
Just if you ask in one phrase, the summary of all that learning, it is only one, that the mother loves us, and there is nothing more precious than her love. That's, I would summarize. We say that we love, but we don't know even love. Forget about loving the divine. It's a very tall order. But this I know, that she loves us and she loves the whole creation. And because she is there, there is hope. So,
thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.